And we actually dishonored the thousands of American troops that died or were severely injured there to provide Iraq with an opportunity to have a safe, secure, and stable environment, when now the government that we have left them with has carried out these vicious attacks against these unarmed civilians living there with the promise of protection from the U.S. As a former leader of our armed forces, I can tell you I am not only embarrassed, I am frustrated by what has been allowed to happen, and that it has been allowed to happen without consequences. Undeniable, unexplainable as to how we could allow that to take place. U.S. soldiers and Marines, and especially our great allies, the U.K. troops that died on Iraqi soil, did so in order to provide Iraq with the opportunity for democracy and for the rule of law. They did not die or suffer these devastating injuries in order to allow Maliki's forces to massacre and kill fellow Iraqis or to kill Iranian civilians living on Iraqi soil. These Iranians, members of the PMOI or MEK, were guaranteed protection by our forces, and their sole aim is to bring their homeland the same freedoms which we fought for in Iraq. Check President-elect Rajabi's 10 points, her platform, and it provides the same freedoms and privileges that we have in this nation, that the United Kingdom has in their nation, that most of the Western world has in their countries. Yet, our own State Department and our own United States Congress, in the way that they have acted, are parties to this inhumane treatment of PMOI members because of their lack of inaction. The State Department, because in spite of the numerous recommendations that it has received from very prominent Americans to take the MEK off the FTO list, continues to slow roll that issue. And therefore, by that inaction, they have actually hurt the cause of establishing a democratic regime in Iran by continuing to keep the PMOI, the PMOI or the MEK on the list. And again, some very prominent Americans, including one of our panelists this morning, Ambassador Dale Daly, Lieutenant General, retired as well, who knows more about terrorism than anyone they got in the State Department. And he recommended they come off a long time ago, and yet today they remain on. The EU and the United Kingdom took the PMOI, the MEK off the list years ago. What are we waiting for? We ought to do it today. As one of my fellow colleagues mentioned earlier, they were placed on, the MEK was placed on the list in the 90s in the hopes of appeasing the current Iranian regime. Today, there is no question about it, the Iranian regime is the largest exporter of terrorism in the world. From my perspective, the Iranian people could not have a worse government in charge than they have in the current Iranian regime. Yet, by keeping the MEK on the terrorist list, we in fact weaken the support of the most vital organization around that could bring about change internal to Iran. It is in fact a movement that would replace the current regime. By doing that, we failed to provide an opportunity for the Iranian people to live in a democratic environment, one that would be based on the 10 points brought about by President-elect Rajabi.